is Nick Robbins, and I'm Professor in Practice for Sustainable Finance at the London School of Economics. I have over 20 years' experience working on financing climate action in banks, investment funds and financial policy. I authored the Climate Change Committee's report on the road to net zero finance, and I've established the UK's Financing the Just Transition Alliance to mobilise the financial sector to ensure that climate action is fair for all. I'm delighted to be appointed a Commissioner on Scotland's Just Transition Commission until 2026. In 2021, the world came to Scotland to accelerate action on climate change at the COP26 summit in Glasgow. Mobilising finance is going to be a make or break issue for countries around the world and for Scotland's own efforts to deliver a just transition to net zero. We need to make 2022 the year when practical action is taken to bring together public finance, finance from banks and investors, as well as finance from Scotland's own citizens to make climate action fair for all. We've made real progress in scaling up climate investment. At the Glasgow COP, 450 financial institutions from across the world with over 130 trillion in assets committed to make their portfolios net zero by 2050. Investments in key priorities such as offshore wind are growing significantly, but much more is needed. The Climate Change Committee estimates that net zero investment in the UK needs to grow fivefold to 50 billion a year by 2030. Many are now talking about a wall of money in terms of banks and pension funds seeking out green assets. But there's a real gap between this latent interest and delivery on the ground, not least to ensure that access to capital is available to all. We need to make sure that climate action overcomes entrenched inequalities and does not make these inequalities worse by leaving behind workers, consumers and communities. The urgency of the financing challenge has been deepened by the damage done by the COVID pandemic and the current gas price surge, which is feeding into the wider cost of living crisis. So we need to make sure that 2022 seizes the potential of growing desire to invest in climate action and translates this into practical projects on the ground. We need 2022 to be the year of financing a just recovery. As part of Evidence Week, I'm happy to make myself available to policymakers to discuss a wide range of topics, such as how much finance does Scotland need to deliver a just transition to net zero? What are banks and investors doing to increase investment in net zero and also cut investment in fossil fuels? How can financial institutions explicitly support a just transition, for example in energy, housing and agriculture? How can we make sure that finance gets down to the ground in terms of supporting place-based priorities across Scotland? And what are the priorities for new initiatives to close the funding gap? Finally, what options are available to citizens to invest in climate action, for example through community energy? I hope the experience I can bring will be of use to policymakers to make smart and significant decisions in the year ahead. If you have any questions or want to find out more, please book a meeting with us online. Thank you.